Hi everyone, welcome to Bucs UK TV. It's episode 114. I'm joined with Wayne, Alex, and Marianna. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hey,
We'll try and make it as least painful as possible, but we do need to go work out what was going on. Alex, let's start with you. Give me your overall take against the 49ers.
quite literally a game of two halves for me. First half, I didn't think we were very good at all. And then second half, I mean, yeah, we conceded 14 points in the third quarter, but I thought as a team overall we looked much, much better. There were some individual performances which I'm sure we'll come on to later. But um, I think a lot of us expected us to really sort of cave to the 49, particularly as how strong a team they are. And then to only going at halftime 6 points down, I think if you offer that to most of us before the game started, we were taking it. So quite a mixed bag, this one.
So Wayne, as Alex says, potentially a game of two halves. I mean, did the game live up to your expectations? What were you expecting, and how did it pan out?
I'll be honest, it was closer than I expected. We seemed to play either out of our skins or absolutely abysmally. I do think, as Alex said, it was a game of two halves. I thought we played reasonably well in the first half to go in only 6 points down, but then in the second half, I'm guessing the defence got tired and they just started to take advantage of us. Yeah, that was it really. But they seemed to have all the space they wanted and could move the ball at will most of the second half.
So Marianna, you said before we started recording, you said you're feeling a bit flat. Do you think the Buccaneers are feeling just as flat right now?
Yeah, I think we pre-game we probably would have all expected to lose that. And once again, it's the hope that's basically killed me, not the actual loss. Because we did stay in it.
Yeah.
For quite a large portion of it, but then we just once again just couldn't convert it into a more challenging win. And I think also we've come out of there with a couple of injuries as well, which is never good either. So I think the team probably is probably feeling, I would guess, the same way, a little bit flat after that. Had our chances, that had we taken them, it might have actually been a different result.
Yeah. Well, let's mix things up. Let's start with the defense. Because I think, for me personally, that was where the greatest variability, I think, Alex, and you started to talk about a game of two halves. Kind of obviously, let's start with the highlights on defense and what you think worked. Might be a short conversation.
What I think worked. I don't know if a lot worked, and the reason why I say that is because McCaffrey got. Yeah, I know you want me to talk positively, but I'm struggling to talk positively because all I'm remembering from this game is McCaffrey. He's almost like a cheat code as far as I'm concerned. He only got 78 yards, but he was still finding those gaps through the defensive line. Secondary, I don't even know where to begin. We want to talk about secondary right now, to be honest.
Okay, let's go with what didn't work. Let's start with what didn't work. Keep going.
I'm gonna have to because all I'm thinking about is all those negatives that I saw on defense. There was all this, there was this soft coverage again. There was all these underneath passes, which means they were going between the linebackers and the defensive backs. We had Jamal Dean, who I don't know what he was doing for that touchdown. I know he picked up an injury, but he made himself look like a right ball on that one. I mean, you want positive. Vita Vea, again, you don't have a bad word to say about the guy. He was penetrating up front, making it difficult. I mean, but when you get a quarterback who I believe he got a perfect passer rating.
Yeah, it's annoying.
I mean, it is. It's hard to say what worked well on defense.
Only
when you got
4
a quarterback who's got
incompletions all day long.
Yeah. Hopefully Marianna or Wayne might be able to be a bit more positive than I am because defense. Because I just didn't think we were very good. I really didn't.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to Wayne, and I'm going to be very, very specific because I want a very specific answer. Tell me about Yaya.
Oh, well, he got our 1 sack of the game, didn't he?
Two sacks.
2 sacks. That's it, really.
2 sacks, 16 yards, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 QB hits, I think that is, 4 solo tackles. I think for me, he was a bright spot.
Yeah, there were a couple of bright spots, and I think, yeah, you're right, he's one of them. But the bright spots this week were few and far between. They were
I'm going to keep going. I'm going to say Antoine Winfield, Marianna. I thought he did well.
I was actually with you on Yaya. He was the standout for me, and he was last week, I think, as well. Since he's kind of come into the starting lineup, Yaya's done superbly well. He's just got a pace that gets him through the line and to the quarterback. I think we're seeing things out of him that I would have expected to see maybe out of Kansi or something. I think Yaya's really standing out. I'm kind of with Alex and Wayne on the other thing. I don't recall seeing much out of Winfield. Again, our secondary was just standing off. They had some like huge completions deep. It was the same old, unfortunately.
Oh, you guys, it's like the 3 witches of Eastwick. I almost said Ed McCaffrey. We didn't hold Ed McCaffrey at all. We held Christian McCaffrey to sub 4 yards a carry and 5 yards a catch. I think that's a good day at the office. You've got a team which is, I can't know what their rating was before. They are 5-3, 6-3. 27 points. I don't think they've scored sub 30 for a few weeks. So I'm just putting it out there. I think it could have been a lot worse. And I think some of the defense
we stayed in it, right? The defense did just enough to keep us in it. They stopped a few drives, but McCaffrey only needs the one chance to get through and sort you. And unfortunately, just holding them to 30 points and we'll come on to it in a bit, our offense is not normally scoring much more than 20 is not going to be enough. And we just got beaten by a better side. I think Brock Purdy really, saw our weaknesses and picked us apart, unfortunately.
I think it goes back to something that I think has been the story of our season as well. We're being outcoached over and over and over. Yes, okay, we're 4-6. We've got 4 wins. Brilliant, amazing, and we've done well in those games. But ultimately, when we come up against these big teams, these Super Bowl caliber teams, we are just getting outcoached every single time. It's the same story every time we come against them.
So
it's all very well
being
good.
Examples, Alex, for those that maybe didn't watch the game because they were too scared. Give us some examples of what for me what stood out as the sort of the coaching deficit.
I mean, I think a big thing for me, I think, in terms of that coaching deficit, a big thing is it's those play calls. It's got to be those play calls. I look at particularly the offense versus defense. I'm going to quickly, if I may, to our offense against
okay, we'll
San
move to the offense. We'll move to talk about the offense. Go on, keep going.
Yeah, I'm not going into detail, but it's just to give you the example here. So when we're calling plays, particularly when San Francisco were on defense, they had our number every time. They were ready. They had clearly watched the tape. The coaches had clearly done their homework, done everything they could. Fred Warner, I'm sure we'll talk about him more later as well. He was all over the shop. They clearly had coached him well for numerous seasons, and they were just so much better in terms of the way in terms of how they were ready, how they were prepared. I really thought we know how good Shanahan is a head coach, and I generally think we saw that. We got Todd Bowles, who's there to lead our team as a head coach. I've said many times he's not a head coach. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator. As a head coach, it's not quite working. I think we can see in terms of how the team is set up, in terms of how the plays are called, and those are the big differences. And that's the difference between a winning team and a losing team.
Yeah, I mean, just for parity, I think the 49ers had some shocking clock management at various points in the game. I mean, towards the end, they weren't calling timeouts when they probably should have done, in the first half rather. And, they could have easily had more turnovers. They could have had certainly more interceptions. We'll stick with that on the, yeah. So I think they had missed opportunities as well. But Wayne, Alex has taken us on to the offensive side of the ball. Again, we've been screaming out loud to get the tight ends the ball, throw it to Godwin and Evans, and we did all of that, didn't we?
We certainly got through it to the tight ends. I think it was Ottenab leading receiver. I don't think we threw it to Evans and Godwin nearly enough. Although is that due to, well, certainly with Mike, the number of drops he's had recently? Perhaps there's the confidence is beginning to wane there a little bit. I also felt that there were a lot of tip passes in this game, more than is normal, I think, because I did ask on the forum, is Baker shorter than average? Because you can all remember Doug Flutie and the ball was coming out like a Polaris missile because he couldn't see over the line.
I think he's pretty good, but let's have a look. How tall is he?
And as a quarterback, yeah, he is. I think
he is a shorter quarterback.
Yeah, but
6'1".
There's
nothing wrong with being 6'1". If I wear platforms, I'm 6'1".
I'd love to be 6'1".
I stand on a ladder.
I'd love to weigh 215 pounds. But that's a different discussion for a different day.
But yeah, I think I don't think we threw enough we seem to try the deep ball more to keep it exciting, but it was never seemed to be to. It was one deep pass to Mike and maybe.
Yeah, I mean the stat line's a bit unfair. Mike Evans says 12 targets, 5 catches. A lot of those I think probably weren't, let's say, tip passes and not genuine.
Yeah, they weren't.
One thing we were talking about, Wayne, I think on the forum was the referees. It's an easy get out to say the refs had it in for us. However, Wayne, I think we both agree the refs had it in for us, didn't they?
I think so. There are lots of calls that seem to be called. But if the 49ers, if it was against us, we got called. If it was against the 49ers, it tended not to get called. The defensive pass interferences. It's been the story for a number of weeks, though. Probably longer than that if you think about it. We are not one of the A-list teams, unfortunately, so we don't tend to get the calls that way.
I guess you have to have when you have Brady at quarterback, you're used to all the calls and the schedule and everything going your way.
Yeah,
Marianna, Alex talked about coaching and coachability. Now let's talk about the run game a little bit, because obviously we stuck with it probably as long as we feasibly could have score-wise. It felt like the play selection was a bit different to normal.
Yeah, there did seem to be a couple more sort of bouncing to the outside. I think they had Tompkins run out the backfield once. I think we are mixing it up a bit more. I think we did last week, and I think we carried it on into this week. The run game just still isn't quite working. I think it's partly to do with the blocking, partly to do with the way Rachaad White doesn't seem to find the gaps when they are there. When you watch a McCaffrey, or for my sins, if I'm having to watch a Giants game later, or earlier, whichever it works out. I'm seeing Barkley, and I'm seeing how a good running back can find the gap and run a sort of patient way into a gap, and I don't see that with White, which seems a shame because he did seem to come on last year. This year he's just been a bit ineffective. But I'm not seeing really Edmonds or Sean Vaughan or anyone else pick up the mantle and sort of take over. So we are where we are with having to lead with Rachaad White, I think, still, and continue with it. I mean, he did get a touchdown. Can't argue that. It just, the run game just doesn't seem to be clicking. And so
the run game's an interesting one. Sorry, Marianna. Sorry.
No.
Just want to quickly come in on that, because the run game is an interesting one. You were saying about it not quite clicking. And there was a stat that came up on the coverage last night where I don't think our run game in the last sort of 7 or 8 seasons has been higher than something like 24th in the league. So, you know, that raises a lot of questions there. We've had different running backs over say, 7 or 8 seasons. It's not worked, So what's the issue? Is that we're not creating gaps from O-line? Is that going back to coaching? Is it we have players? It's a weird one. I think none of us will know what the answer is, and I think the fact it's been going on for 7 or 8 seasons.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
think you're
systemic,
right.
and I think it's related to Jason Light, who ultimately is getting the bodies in the building. Since we had Doug Martin, we haven't had a big budget back. He's been spending his money elsewhere. I think the linemen that are being chosen are pass blocking linemen. You can see that's day and night in terms of pass blocking versus run blocking. Although, dare I say it, towards the end of the game, once we lost Wirfs, and Marianna, you mentioned injuries. Once we lost Wirfs, that was really worrying because that line fell apart very, very quickly. But I think pass blocking this year has been one of the highlights. So I would suggest I'm not an expert like you say, Alex. We don't really know, but I think they've prioritized pass blocking. The 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, they destroyed us. They had 115 yards rushing, 333 passing. So you're getting 3 times your yardage in the air than you are on the ground in the modern NFL. So I think you're better off putting your money in the pass bucket if you have to do one. Obviously, they're both nice to have.
But if you don't have a run game, then you see what we do see when we start to get behind is they just go after the quarterback because they know that's what we're going to be doing. That's why everyone sort of says, "Oh yeah, we're running up the gut and we should just abandon it and pass because that's what's working." But the only reason it's working is because they still have to respect the run.
That's a really good point, I think. Yeah.
As soon as you take that away, then they can just pin their ears back and go after the quarterback.
I think also we have to remember the defense we were playing against as well, and not put it all on our offense. They had a player go out, and they had a young rookie, that Jair Brown, come in, and he made the 2 crucial stops. He had the one that bounced off his helmet, which probably, I don't know, that's one of the ones that I would have lent for a pass interference call because he didn't seem to turn his head around. It just bounced off the top of his head. And normally, if the defender doesn't turn their head on a play, going into the end zone, that's an interference call almost every time. So I was a bit surprised to see a ball bounce off the top of his head and Mike Evans not see a flag afterwards. But hey ho. But that guy did come in and make a couple of decent stops. They've also got Nick Bosa and they picked up Chase Young as well. I mean, you're talking like big name defenders in there, so
Fred
we can't
Warner,
put it all on our own.
The commentators were pretty much proposing to Fred Warner at one point, it felt like.
I mean, Fred Warner was sublime. But I've been quite negative throughout this pod. So can I take a moment to be positive while we're talking about the offense as well, so I can try and change my tone. Because I want to say about Hideki and Wirfs, who I thought were incredible against Young and Bosa. I don't think Bosa really got a sniff, and he was up against Hideki on his left, Hideki's right on the right hand side. And we know what Tristan Wirfs is like, especially that transition he's done from right tackle to left tackle, which has been seamless. I thought those two were extraordinary, and to keep those Young and Bosa quiet is no easy task. They were brilliant, those two. Yeah. So it's just superb.
Had a flag for holding later in the game, but when you look to the replay, like, I'm pretty glad he held because otherwise Baker was going to get destroyed. Take the flag and live to fight another day. Actually, talking about Baker, we haven't said much about Baker Mayfield yet, have we? Wayne, kind of, I personally, I'm still really impressed with Baker. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. I think where would this team be if we didn't have Baker there? He's very, very good at avoiding the sack. He's got the guts, he goes for it. And if he sees a running lane, he will run. Tom Brady is the GOAT, but he wasn't exactly mobile. It's nice to have a quarterback that will run, and also he's not afraid to fight for the extra couple of yards to get first down. Yeah, I suppose despite this, the negative people will all say, "Oh, it's Baker's fault. We lost, and let's get rid of him and put Trask in." But
well, that's interesting. I mean, at the beginning of the year, I think most of us had that. Most of us, I'll say most of us. I will admit, I had that bye week penciled in. I thought that if we're going to make a change at quarterback, it was going to be the bye week. But actually, I think that the Trask talk, which is certainly an underused phrase, hasn't really been very vocal of late. So I think the Bucs have got lots of problems. Baker Mayfield ain't one of them. I think.
No, I agree.
To paraphrase. Cool. Okay. Well, I think we'll probably call it there. But on the offense, but I do want to talk about special teams, because special teams was, aside from some stupid short kicks, I think the highlight phase of the game. Alex, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I was happy with special teams this time. I really was. Tompkins Tompkins had some great returns. He there was one where he took it away back, didn't he? I can't remember exactly, but I just remember that.
Yeah, he had one
one
return, two punt returns,
how far was it?
one of which was 51 yards,
That's
3
the one,
kick
yeah.
returns for an 18-yard average, which is still very respectable.
Yeah.
And there was one where I think he took it. I think it was or something like on the 3 or 4 yard line and got us back to about 22, 23 yards. So which is a nice little return there, especially when you think if it goes into touch, you end up back around 25 yards anyway. 25 yards anyway. So to get us back to that position, so I thought the return game was really good this time. I was impressed.
And we've been asking Tompkins, haven't we, Wayne, to break one for some time. It felt like that gave a bit of spark to the team, I thought.
It did. He got me off the sofa. it was really nice to see, because for so many years now, we've got the ball and we've just run straight out the middle and straight into a line of the opposition players. It was really nice to actually see us break a couple for some decent yardage. I almost thought we were going to get our second punt return for a touchdown there at one point.
It was they beat the punter and they just ran out of pace a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, we'll call it there. We'll live and learn to fight another day. We still love our Bucs. Interestingly, about 600 49ers fans also seem to love our Bucs. Thank you to the crazy bunch of you that all watched our podcast last week. It's as close as I think we've ever come to going viral. So long may that continue. Come along for the ride. Keep watching. More the merrier. And we'll see how that goes. Hopefully there's some crazy Colts fans out there, and we'll get them glued to next week's podcast. So Wayne, Alex, Marianna, thank you very much. Thank you not only to all the crazy 49ers fans, but to the crazy Bucs fans as well. You're all part of the big family, and we love you all. And we'll see you next time. But until then, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thanks.